Carly Gregg was born into what seemed like a normal family. Her mother, Ashley Smiley, was hardworking and dedicated to raising her daughter right. Carly's father had left when she was just a baby, but by the time Carly was 3, Ashley had married Heath Smiley, a man who stepped into the father role willingly. They lived in a suburban neighborhood in Mississippi, in a quiet home where, from the outside, everything appeared stable, but appearances can be deceiving. Ashley was a strict parent. She believed that discipline and structure were essential for raising a well-rounded child. Carly, however, felt the weight of her mother's expectations every day. As she entered her teenage years, she started to rebel. Small things at first, like skipping classes or staying out later than allowed. Carly's school life, too, was far from perfect. She struggled to make close friends, often feeling like an outsider. By the time she was 13, she began experimenting with marijuana and using burner phones to hide her activities from her mother. Ashley had no idea her daughter's behavior was spiraling out of control until Carly's friend revealed the truth. It was in those moments, when Carly's secrets were finally exposed, that everything started to unravel. March 19, 2024, started like any other day for Carly. But that afternoon, everything changed. Carly's close friend, worried about her increasing drug use and erratic behavior, told Carly's mother about the hidden stash of vape pens and burner phones Carly had been using. Ashley, furious and feeling betrayed, immediately confronted her daughter. According to accounts from the trial, Ashley marched into Carly's room and began searching through her things. She found the vape pens first, and then the phone Carly had been using to keep her secrets from her family. For Ashley, this was the final straw. For Carly, it was the moment everything in her world collapsed. The argument that followed was explosive. Ashley screamed, Carly screamed back, and the intensity of the confrontation was palpable. But no one, not even Carly herself, could have predicted how far things would go. Later, during the trial, it became clear that Carly's mental health had been deteriorating for months before that day. She had been struggling with depression, anxiety, and even hearing voices. She felt trapped in a world where nothing made sense and saw no way out. Carly's anger boiled over. Her thoughts darkened. She grabbed a .357 Magnum handgun from the house, a gun she had seen her stepfather use on multiple occasions. And then she did the unthinkable. Surveillance footage from the home would later capture the haunting final moments of Ashley Smiley's life. Carly, dressed in a Nirvana t-shirt, could be seen walking around the house, her face a mask of emotions, anger, fear, sadness, and something else. Something darker, in her hand. She held the gun, though she kept it out of sight. As she made her way to the back bedroom where her mother had retreated, the camera couldn't see what happened next, but it could hear at .3 gunshots rang out, followed by a scream. Ashley's scream. The sound echoed through the house before fading into silence. Carly emerged moments later, her expression now eerily calm. She hid the gun behind her back and sat down in the kitchen, as if nothing had happened, but Carly wasn't finished. After shooting her mother, Carly picked up Ashley's phone and sent a message to her stepfather, Heath. "When will you be home, honey?" It was a chilling act of deception, designed to lure Heath back to the house so Carly could finish what she had started. When Heath arrived, he found Carly waiting for him. She shot him too, though this time Heath was able to fight back. He wrestled the gun away from her and called 911, but the damage was already done. Ashley Smiley was dead, and Carly's life, too, was about to change forever. In the days that followed, the investigation into Ashley's death began to uncover troubling details about Carly's mental health. Carly had been suffering from depression for years, but in the months leading up to the murder, things had gotten worse. She had been hearing voices, experiencing dissociative episodes, and even began writing disturbing thoughts in a journal. Thoughts about evil, about family, and about how she no longer believed in anything. During the trial, Carly's defense team argued that she had been in the midst of a psychotic episode when she killed her mother. Psychiatrist Dr. Andrew Clark testified that Carly was suffering from extreme mood swings and dissociative symptoms, and that the medication she had been prescribed just days before the shooting had made things worse. But the prosecution had a different story to tell. They argued that Carly knew exactly what she was doing when she pulled the trigger. They pointed to her actions after the shooting, luring her stepfather home, texting her friends, and calmly sitting in the kitchen as if nothing had happened. It was a calculated crime, they said. Carly may have been troubled, but she was not insane. The trial was a whirlwind of emotions, with both sides presenting compelling arguments. Carly sobbed as the evidence was laid out before the jury, but the prosecution was unrelenting. They played the surveillance footage for the court, showing Carly walking through the house moments before the shooting, the gun hidden behind her back. After 4 days of testimony, it took the jury only 2 hours to reach a verdict, guilty on all counts. Gregg was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As the sentence was read, Carly broke down in tears, but it was too late. The damage had been done, and the world would never see Gregg as the sweet, troubled teenager she once was. To many, she was now a cold-blooded killer. Gregg was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As of today, she resides in a juvenile facility, though she will be transferred to an adult prison when she reaches the age of 18. For the rest of her life, Carly will live behind bars, a place far from the world she once knew, a world where she was just another teenager trying to figure herself out. But what does life in prison look like for a 15-year-old girl? And what happens next? In prison, Carly has limited contact with the outside world. The once vibrant social media profiles of her teenage years have been erased, and she's left to reflect on her crime and the series of events that led her there. According to those who have worked with her inside the facility, Carly continues to struggle with her mental health, though she is receiving treatment. She's attended regular therapy sessions, but there are no reports of significant progress. One of the key issues surrounding Carly's case is the question of rehabilitation. Is there hope for a young person convicted of such a heinous crime to rehabilitate, to someday become a functioning member of society? Many advocates for juvenile justice reform believe so. They argue that children are not fully formed, that their brains are still developing, and that with the right support, rehabilitation is possible. Even for someone like Carly, on the other side of the debate are those who believe that some crimes are simply too severe, and that age shouldn't matter. Carly took her mother's life and tried to kill her stepfather. For many, the fact that she was only 14 at the time doesn't change the brutality of the crime. The emotional scars left on Heath Smiley, Carly's stepfather, are still fresh, and it's hard to argue with the pain and loss he has endured. In interviews since the trial, Heath has expressed mixed emotions about Carly's sentence. He's devastated by the loss of his wife, but he also remembers Carly as a little girl, his stepdaughter, someone he cared for deeply. When he took the stand during Carly's trial, he described the moment he realized that Carly didn't recognize him when she shot him. "It wasn't Carly," he said. "She looked like she'd seen a demon or something." It raises a difficult question. To what extent was Carly aware of what she was doing? Was it a moment of madness, driven by a psychotic break? Or was it premeditated? As the prosecution argued, the lines between mental illness and criminal responsibility are often blurry, and Carly's case is a prime example of how difficult it can be to make those distinctions. As Gregg begins her life sentence, the questions linger. How could a 14-year-old girl commit such a brutal act? Could anyone have seen this coming? And most importantly, could it have been prevented? Carly's story is a tragic reminder of the complexities of mental health, especially in adolescence. It's easy to point fingers, to label Carly as evil or disturbed, but the truth is more complicated than that. Carly was a child in crisis, trapped in a world she couldn't understand, and in the end, she chose a path that would destroy everything. Perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of this case is that it didn't have to happen. With the right support, with earlier intervention, Carly's life, and the life of her mother, might have been saved. But now, all we can do is look back and wonder, what if?